what? I didn't hit the go live button on live stream on YouTube, did I not? All right. Go live.
Do it all over.
Yep.
Take two.
Greetings, everyone. I hope you I hope you're all doing well today. Welcome to the first official Brony Debates live stream. Joining me today is my good friend Finn the Pony. How are you doing, Finn?
Hello. I am doing awesome.
All right. I was wondering what was going on there. Did you get possessed for just a second there, Finn?
I have been possessed by a demon.
Okay, good to know. I'll get you in touch with my exorcist after the show tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And next to him in this lovely little thumbnail that I have so painstakingly hand-drawn, obvious lie, is my good friend Deverer, who I've known for a long time. How are you doing today, sir?
Yo, okay.
Okay, so Deverer's speaking in tongues as well, so I'll get you in touch with my exorcist too. Maybe he can do a 2-for-1 on you guys.
Maybe you'll give us a discount.
Yep, discounts are always a good thing. Right in the middle of that display image is DJSkywalker, one of my most loyal Patreon supporters at the moment. How are you doing tonight, DJ?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
And standing by my side through thick and thin, as always, is the lovely Heather Blossom, Princess Heather Blossom to all of you, as our gorgeous moderator. She's going to be looking over the chat for me, making sure you all are behaving yourselves, as well as taking your questions towards the back half of the stream. How are you doing, Heather?
I'm doing pretty okay, and I'd be better if you'd moderate me.
Let me see. That's right. I need to do that, don't I?
Yep, gotta make her a mod.
Yeah, gotta make her a mod.
Make me in charge. I'm the boss.
Yep.
Everyone has to do what I say.
Oh my goodness. I'm
not just like a boss, she is the boss.
It's like giving a handgun to a monkey. This could only end well.
I find that insulting.
I saw that movie series. It
You think it'd
pretty
be
good.
like giving a gun to a cat?
Don't worry, Heather. I'll get you some pizza when we're done while I'm getting these two their exorcist.
That's a lie, I know it is. And also, they're not freaking possessed, they just are having strokes.
Well, different strokes for different folks, as they say.
You're disgusting.
Hey, if you don't leave the door open, I won't walk through it. You've been with me for a year and some change now, you should know this.
No, don't you lie to me. I know you wreck holes into walls rather than use a dang door.
Okay, we're getting off topic here. If by any chance you guys would like to be a part of one of these streams someday, I would be more than happy to have you on. You get that chance being on my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That goes a long way. I got to give some shout outs here to some of my higher ranking Patreon supporters, including our good friends Autoknight, Sodding Girder, Senko, Jennan Kellogg, Kyle Christensen, DJSkywalker right there in the chat with us, Mike's Geek World, and the Equestrian City Heroverse series. Really good fan fiction. I highly recommend everybody checking it out. And with that, let's get started. So, who here has seen the latest episode of this lovely little show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic? This one in particular titled Between Dark and Dawn. Has everybody seen that episode?
I did.
Can you see my hand? I'm holding it up.
Okay, yep, I can see you holding up your hand, but you've also got a pizza in that hoof and halfway into your mouth.
Actually, that's a hoof.
Okay, yep, get out of here, Mudbriar.
What is this hand that you speak of?
Yeah.
Technically, we are talking about hooves today. We are horses after all.
No.
That is so spot on.
Who was that? Okay, so that must have been Finn.
That was me.
Oh my God,
Wow.
Finn, that was amazing.
Thank you.
Good job, my man. Alrighty then. So
Yeah, don't ever do it again.
let's.
Please do
Technically,
that,
I don't
please.
need to do it again because you've already heard it once.
Oh my.
Alrighty then.
Do it again, I will be forced to track you down and punch you.
Oh come on. Let's play. Yeah. Anyway, so Finn, tell me what you liked about the episode.
Okay, well, first things first, I want to say a little personal thing right here. I'm glad that this is a Celestia-themed episode because a little something happened before our stream started today.
Okay, tell me what happened.
Dear Princess Celestia, today I learned that using Discord is not as easy as just plugging in a mic and expecting it to work.
Well, you see, it should be, but you and I have both made the mistake of being on a Mac.
Yes. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Alright, I'm glad you think that way. There's been more than one occasion I've been ready to chuck that thing out the gosh darn window. So, tell me what you liked about the episode itself.
Alright, first things first, obvious and most important of the things, I love the sister dynamic between Luna and Celestia. A lot of people, get really excited whenever we see Luna and Celestia themed episodes, and so do I. But I think most of them either focus on them separate and, maybe doing each other's tasks or, just interacting very slightly. This was just a full-on them in the center episode and just them interacting with each other. And I like their whole contrasting personalities thing they got going on here, where one is all about adventure and one is all about relaxing, and they also include reasons for why they're like that. Luna always, has to work the night shift so she doesn't get a lot of sleep, and then Celestia has to do just normal, everyday commoner stuff with her subjects, so she doesn't really get a lot of chance to do adventure. I like that there's both an internal conflict and they explained it well and said why they both of them feel this way. Song was phenomenal. It was very catchy. It was, it was very upbeat. Toe tapper, which I love. I love their vacationing outfits, which I think everybody loves at this point. The way their hair was done up, their little Hawaiian shirts, that was just an adorable design all around with them. Main six side story was okay. It was there mostly for jokes, which I understand. One thing I thought was a little bit odd. Actually, I'll save that for the negatives later on. But
okay.
What else did I like? I like the fact that we got to see so many different sides of Equestria as well. Like the fact that they're, traveling all over the place and getting to see all these things they've never seen before. It's also things we've never seen before. So, it's like they're mostly just, shots of stuff here and there, but it's nice to see we're going on a vacation with the two of these.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I didn't personally notice the backgrounds all that much. I was too focused on what was happening kind of in the foreground, so to speak. But yeah, that is pretty interesting. Deverer, what did you think? Give me something you liked.
I have to go again with the sister dynamic. It's nice to always see them arguing and seeing them as quote-unquote real people, even though they're both ponies and fictional characters. But I also like the way the how do I put this? The setup is, because I'm not necessarily a sucker for these kind of stories where it starts out all handy-dandy and then it starts to go downhill really fast. But when they are executed right, I like them. It's kind of why I like episodes such as probably the best one to point to is Best Night Ever, or even probably my favorite off the top of my head that does this is Sweet and Elite.
Okay.
First, because you compare those two songs, the songs. At first, you have the first part of what we have here in Between Dark and Dawn, where it's all upbeat, happy. But when you get to the second part, it quickly tells us, yeah, things are not going right.
That reminded me. Sorry, I was gonna say. That also reminded me a lot of Rules of Rarity as well. The same kind of structure where it starts off happy and then kind of meshes in with the character's emotional turmoil as it goes later on.
Yeah, and so in Sweet and Elite, during her song, Pony We Should Know, the whole song is upbeat. It looks like everything's fine, but then that stinger at the end tells us that things are being messed up, even though things were going fine at first.
Starting to grate on each other.
Starting to grade, or it's the faults in their bliss starting to show through and coming back to bite them.
All right, so let's move on then to DJ. DJ, what did you like about the episode?
Oh, there was just so much. It was such an enjoyable episode. I think what stands out to me, after I actually just went and rewatched it before coming on here, and there is actually a lot in the backgrounds, especially through the song. And I just loved all the little details, and even the song already was really good.
Now, I know you came into the fandom a little bit later around the first Equestria Girls type of thing, but that's something that early fans of the show used to do all the time. Was we used to play Where's Waldo with just about everything in the background. It just analyzed the heck out of the background of every single episode. So that's pretty cool. I definitely liked the sister dynamic as well. It was very interesting to see. It was kind of it was in a way predictable to see how it would devolve, but it was still enjoyable to watch nonetheless. It's an episode that I've been waiting for gosh darn 9 seasons, so I'm certainly happy about that. It gave me a lot of really deep thoughts on not only where the show has come from, but where it's going to go. And you know what's going to happen next, especially with these two characters. And even though I've never been the biggest Luna fan, I definitely like Celestia way more than I should. So seeing them interact in a more intimate and casual setting was a whole lot of fun for me. Heather, do you want to give it anything anything you want to say that you liked about the episode for a couple of minutes?
Sure, since you still got 8 minutes for your like section. I would say, so I don't reiterate everything you guys have already gone over, I like the designs. I want to go a little more into detail with that because you brought it up before the chat, their hair. I don't know, I'm pretty sure you somewhat know this. I always wanted to see them do different things with the princess's hair, like to see it up in different styles, even if they could do that. I have a feeling the reason both their tails were up in buns was because they didn't want to have to do the flowy animation the entire episode, but it was still enjoyable to see them in different clothes. I mean, isn't this like the first time we've seen them without shoes on? Have you ever thought about that? It's weird.
Yeah. When Princess Luna was sitting in that lawn chair on the beach, I was and we watched it last night, and I know I didn't say it out loud, but I had that clip of Plankton going through my head. Good grief, she's naked.
Yeah, she definitely was. It feels that way because they even sleep in that stuff. We've seen it. Both of them waking up from nightmares still dressed in their regalia, and it's just like, why are you wearing that to bed? Why are we taking it off now?
Y'all girls ain't never heard of pajamas?
Oh.
Those are their pajamas.
I mean,
so
we
wear
don't.
their pajamas to all their royal outings.
I mean, isn't that what you've always wanted to do?
Well, we don't normally wear clothes. Well, maybe DJ doesn't. I got a blazer.
I have a hat.
Yeah, you got a hat and a backpack.
Wear shoes, so
Yeah, and those goofy sunglasses, and Dev's got that stupid sweater.
Goofy. It was you?
Make me leap over this table, because I've learned some things. I know your weak spots now.
Alrighty then. I'm glad you know my weak spots. You'll stand half a chance.
Oh, and one thing I wanted to bring up that I forgot to mention, which is a little fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact from Finifu. The writer of the episode, Gail Simone, is actually famous for writing comic books. And if you remember the intro of the episode where they, kind of do this little superhero thing and try to save the day at every opportunity, it kind of reminded me of a comic book.
Yeah, which comic book did it remind you of?
Just your generic comic book vibe, like, oh, there's trouble, we'll save you.
Oh yeah,
Also,
that
like
kind of
Silver
thing.
Age stuff.
That was one of the things that drove me nuts. I mean, I thought it was part of me thought it was cool. I was yelling my catchphrase the whole time, my battle cry the whole time. But after a certain point, it's like, okay, where has this been for forever?
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden you now realize, oh, we're not living life to the fullest. Okay, let's go do it now.
Yeah,
They had a taste of adventure.
I
wanted more.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a headcanon theory, which I'm not, I don't typically go into and I'm not very good at, but I was telling Heather last night, I was like, so I think I finally figured out what happened. Celestia managed to keep the peace for 1,000 years, And that was what I always liked about her. That's why I always thought she was so cool and so powerful and things like that. She managed to keep the peace for 1,000 years, and then every time that she's gotten taken out of the picture now, she either did it deliberately because she was trying to teach Twilight something, which is canon, or she got sucker punched, which is also canon. I mean, there's no amount of power in the world that's gonna help you if you just get taken out before you can do anything like that. If you get ambushed and put in a position where you become powerless. And the one exception to this being Chrysalis during the Canterlot wedding, where she just straight up got overpowered, and that's fine. There was a good reason for that. But my theory was, it's like, okay, it started to make sense now. In that 1,000 years of peace, Celestia forgot how to fight, and that's why she keeps having all these problems. So there's my bad headcanon. It's probably going to be the last bad headcanon I have for the remainder of this show. What do you guys think about that?
Well, Brawny, I think we remember that flashback back to when Nightmare Moon was taking over. Celestia was never good at fighting, unless she had something in her pocket, like the Elements of Harmony.
Listen,
that was her sister, I suppose, but
I'll tell you, as someone who has been in death matches with a sibling, you don't fight at full power in that situation. It's not something that, and I mean, shoot, I didn't mean for it to get this heavy, but here we are. When it happened to me, I was still thinking to myself, I don't want to hurt him too much. This is my brother, and I know darn well, and we know that Celestia was thinking the same thing during that flashback. So I think DJ was about to say something, or did I mishear?
I think it was Dev.
Yeah, so Dev, what were you thinking?
I was about to say this is kind of all speculation and going too much into headcanon fan fiction territory.
Well, we got 3 more minutes left of the like section, unless you can pull something else more you like out of this episode. I'm gonna lie.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you can probably, I guess I can hold off. Yeah.
All right, so.
I mean, I did have. I want to say that I actually enjoyed the subplot. I know a lot of people haven't really enjoyed it a lot, but I think it was something that was needed because it's kind of their first foray into seeing the lives of the princesses, the main 6, into Twilight finally understanding what Celestia does.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to say, which I thought was really interesting, the way that Celestia basically heaves this whole swan soiree responsibility onto Twilight just out of nowhere, she didn't freak out that much. Growth.
Yeah, certainly not as much as she has in the past, and I guess that's something, that I got to keep in mind. What were you going to say, Heather?
I was going to say the only problem I had was that they let a giant turtle eat garbage, like can and bag and all. That didn't seem incredible.
Well, it was eating leaves before. It can't be that different.
Maybe it was just
leaves
bags
and
of compost.
plastic bags are kind of different.
It eats mulch.
Who knows what else is in there? They said it was generic trash, not recycling.
Well,
if it was recycling, that actually would have made sense.
Well, what is their trash going to be though? Their trash is going to be, unused byproducts of food that they were already eating and just didn't use. So you're probably going to be.
I want to remind you that these are ponies that have pets, and some of them might have cats, and there might be remains in cat litter, and and you want this thing eating rotten food?
No.
Also, perhaps cleaning products. I think we've seen them use like those bottles of detergent and stuff like that.
It has an entire ecosystem growing on its back. I'm pretty sure they yanked it out of that Shadow of the Colossus game where it was part of the landscape before it decided to randomly wake up. I didn't think a few rotten apple cores or maybe some leftover lettuce would, or God forbid, even a cupcake would do that much damage.
It's
Or
just
a
Pokemon.
Pokemon Trainer's Torterra Mega Evolved and got loose.
There we go.
I was waiting for the Pokemon reference. I really was.
Oh yeah, there's a Pokemon that does that. I thought it was more akin to the lion turtles from Avatar: The Last Airbender that were just giant floating islands that turned out to be animals.
Oh no, he's gonna take away our vending.
There was that turtle from Majora's Mask, right?
Oh, I didn't play Majora's Mask. I don't know.
I haven't played Zelda.
It's from one of the Zelda games. Like there's a turtle with like a little island on its back.
Okay, I don't know anything about that either. Heather, do you know anything about that?
Don't know, don't care. You got 30 seconds.
All right,
All
let's.
right. Long story short, there's a lot of turtles with islands on their backs.
All right, yeah, popular
cool.
common mythology for the win. Now then, what did we dislike about the episode, Finn?
Oh, we had 15 seconds left, but sure, I'll start over.
Oh, 15 seconds. Post office.
Post
Good job.
office.
There we go.
Yeah. So what was so bad about the post office?
No. Post office was a good part because we have 15 seconds.
Okay.
15 seconds are up, we're done.
Okay, now bad stuff.
Dislike now, go, it's 15 minutes.
Okay,
You see what happens when you pressure the poor man, Heather? Look what you freaking did.
I am on the clock.
Putting me on the spot.
I've got a schedule and I'm gonna stick to it.
The clock is a guideline, Heather.
I have a clock in 14 minutes, 40 seconds, go.
Okay, in the song, we only saw Capper the cat in the background for like 2 seconds. I wanted to see more of him.
Thank you, yes. I agree, full-heartedly.
I think they would have needed to hire that voice actor again, and I'm pretty sure he was A or B list, so he would have cost a ton of money. And there's also a high chance he would have ended up singing another annoying song himself. So I'm definitely not in favor of that.
Don't you
How
crap
dare
on
you
one of
call
my
his
favorite
song
songs.
annoying?
I did not like The Friend You Need. I thought yeah.
Brawny's
Yeah,
not
how
music
man you
anyway.
attack.
I was sitting there. That was one of the only songs in that movie that I didn't like because I was just sitting in the theater the whole time going, yeah, this isn't a blatantly, malignant backstab waiting to happen.
Well, that's the whole thing. It introduces his character completely in song form. I think that's kind of cool.
Alrighty then. So, Dev, what did you not like about the episode?
I'm not gonna go for the obvious. I'm gonna go for something a bit more subtle.
Okay.
Like I said, I did like the sister relationship before, but during the picnic scene, there was one line, technically two, that really bothered me, both the day and night. The following line from Celestia kind of, I don't want to say made me mad, but like kind of downplayed the whole thing a lot.
How so? What did she say? Because I don't remember her exact words.
So I have the transcript in front of me right now. Princess Celestia says the following: "You think I like that kind of pressure? Being responsible." Oh, excuse me a second. All right. You think I like that kind of pressure? Being responsible for every little thing in Equestria, and you? What I like is a sister I can depend on. The issue with that line, it kind of like downplays the whole conflict between them. You'd think if Luna said something like that, like, I think it feels like you'd rather be alone to rule again. I would think like Celestia might have been hurt by that, considering like the apparent heartbreak that Celestia went through without being with Luna. So
Right.
why is it that Celestia is just defaulting to responsibilities instead of like, having my sister just be away again after 1,000 years,
So let me pose you this possibility then: open wound, or fresh wound, or something not fully healed yet. Because if I remember correctly, it was this kind of nonsense that created the whole Nightmare Moon situation to begin with. Maybe not quite on this scale. Maybe the scale in this episode is a little bit smaller than before, but it was always that kind of thing where there was a difference in what they wanted out of ruling over Equestria. That sort of drove that wedge in between them. So, if it's entirely possible, maybe a little speculative, I'll admit, but what that's telling me about these characters is that they have not had this discussion since Luna came back. So they haven't had a chance to really work through it and really come to peace with what the other thinks. So now that they're being thrust into this situation, they're defaulting back to what caused the situation in the first place because they never fully solved it. If that makes any sense. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it's felt the whole time. Is it never really had any closure.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, I feel that too. Because when Nightmare Moon was reformed into Princess Luna again, the first thing she did was like I think what Celestia had said. I can't quite remember the first episode, but she says like, "Hey, let's put our differences aside and fix this." She didn't say sorry because come on, things like Nightmare Moon don't just happen. There's things that lead up to it.
Yeah.
They never, I don't, as far as we know, they haven't had a discussion over what happened, how it could be prevented, or even like what even like does Celestia even fully understand what was going on in his head? So definitely that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can totally understand what you're saying. I'm not saying that they have to go through every little point, but between like we had like a royal prom where like they did go through some talk between each other with how they view each other and not appreciating what the other is doing and actually trying to iron out some of those wrinkles. My issue is just that why if Luna's gonna make that big jump and like you brought up Brony, it's like an open moon of sorts. Wouldn't you think that Celestia would take that more personally or something like that? It just feels like it's downplaying the whole conflict that happened to begin with by just defaulting to responsibility of ruling instead of like their actual relationship that caused that schism.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing like two different sides of the same problem here, just with a different mentality. You're looking for closure on the subject, and when I see something like that, I'm like, yeah, that I see it as an understandable mistake that a real person would make. So what do you guys think about that?
I suppose so.
Yeah, just resounding silence.
I would agree, except like these are the princesses, and like they've been built up to be these really, really special characters. You know, they're not exactly the typical ones, and I know it's kid, and I think this I want to go off a little tangent really quick. Like I think this may have to go with the whole kid show limitation, maybe. Like instead of like, I'm not excusing it because it's a kid show, but there's just like some subjects they can't really tackle, or they don't want to bother with because they got to focus on trying to just entertain and teach a lesson, you know, so they can't really go off on every tangent.
That's interesting. So, DJ, something you didn't like about the episode?
I didn't really like the beginning.
What was wrong with the beginning?
I didn't like seeing for Celestia and Luna going around solving the problems with the big boisterous attitude. When I first watched it, I had the first portion on mute until they got...
So you just saw two old women trying to live out their glory days.
I mean, I get what it was. It just wasn't enjoyable to listen to.
I thought it was alright.
Especially considering, like, this is another problem. Another issue I gotta bring up. It's season 9. We're now just seeing this. Like, where did this come from?
They haven't.
It's like they're now having their midlife crisis near the end of the freaking season. I mean, end of the freaking series. It's like.
Well, to get meta, it's probably just because now that the animators, the story writers have more free reign.
But I guess what I was trying to say, I mean, maybe the fact that they're starting to retire has something to do with them now realizing this, but at the same time, I do think this is something they probably should have realized a lot sooner, you know?
I mean, I agree, but I gotta put out that I'm kind of biased because I kind of don't like the whole idea of Celestia retiring.
If they were to do something like what Finn was saying here, it would have had to completely change the overarching, the meta of it, the story, for probably since seasons 4 or 5, which I'm not entirely sure how they would have done that without losing some of the better parts of those series. Because I mean, they couldn't have done that. They couldn't have done that with Chrysalis, or they couldn't have done that with Chrysalis because they were overpowered. They couldn't have done that with they could have done it with Sombra, but they didn't get the chance because Twilight passed her test. They couldn't have done it with the Plunder Seeds because they got ambushed by the Plunder Seeds. They couldn't have done it with Erick because he would have stolen their magic, and the whole point was to keep him away from their magic. And then after that was Starlight, which they just didn't have any sort of part in. And then that was and then they didn't have any part of the of the Changeling Hive invasion, the defeat of Chrysalis the second time either. That was all Starlight's thing. So I don't see how they could have gotten a point to do all that. They've been indisposed for one reason or another, for what seemed to be a decent reason for most of it. But now that they were in Season 9, we got the Season 9 opener, and they started actually fighting again. They've realized that if they've remembered that they do enjoy taking a part, an active role in defending Equestria. So that's what I think about that. What do you guys think?
I would say, like, you could maybe slap it in the middle, because don't forget, even though, like, Season 5, we had Two Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep, where Luna is taking an active part in, like, not only solving her own issues, but trying to come back to problems she solved. So, like, I just feel like there were opportunities, like, just in the middle of the season where they could have had, like, this sort of thing happen, where they had the need for adventure, realizing that they haven't been spending time. Because even in Season 7, we had the Royal Problem, that was Starlight going to them, so, like, it was still a change of pace for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
and that was another thing I was going to say. I like the idea of them doing an episode with Luna and Celestia that's not in the castle and not in their usual environment. Like, even their better episodes, like Royal Problem, it was always them having to do with their royal duties, having to do with their responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. But this one is just them being themselves.
Getting to see them as actual ponies rather than the deities that they're looked up to be.
Yeah, and like the only reference we get to the fact that they're princesses is like maybe the occasional pony, like, snapping a picture or fainting at their sight.
That was always so good.
Yeah, that was something that was interesting. Heather, something you didn't like about the episode?
I told you this last night. I didn't like the way Fancy Pants was handled. I mean, we've seen him before. He's supposed to be like a freaking charming guy, but I guess that facade can be ruined. But gosh, him and Rarity sort of known each other, and of course she stated he was being particularly rude with her style choices. This is Rarity we're talking about here. She's like the brand name that you want to be associated with in Equestria with fashion. Even if she's like half-assing it, it's still pretty good. He wiped his mouth on her tablecloth without even fully expecting it, only after you go like, "Oh, you're going with sequins?" So incredibly. What the heck, Fancy Pants?
I feel like they could have put... I'm sorry.
You were bae, but now you're just bam.
To be devil's advocate, Fancy Pants was scorned first by him and his committee, basically being told that they're not needed. So I kind of... It doesn't really excuse it, but it could be seen as him just being upset that they're saying they're useless.
I guess you could say that, and also she did kind of kick him out of the room at one point by flinging him around with her magic, so that could be considered quite rude as well. But gosh, like, they are saviors of Equestria. There is one princess in the room here. You think you could, like, dole out a bit more respect than that? Thank you.
He's also quite possibly older than them.
Yeah, most likely.
I'm sorry, did he save Equestria? No?
I mean, Twilight does say thank you, but then he turns into this...
Well, you see, I don't care in the least bit, what you've done or what your title is. If you're being a jerk or if you're being an idiot, I'm going to talk to you like that. That should be, and I expect people to do the same thing to me, because when people talk to me like I'm an idiot, the first thing I always ask is, am I doing something to be an idiot right now? So, the same thing goes with Fancy Pants, and the same thing goes with Twilight. Just because Twilight is an alicorn, or a princess, or however you want to put it, if she's being oblivious, I'm going to be a little bit more likely to be like, hey, you're being an idiot.
Well, he wasn't exactly blunt about it, and there's stuff he could have brought up first before resorting to that. And still, like, they were not incredibly rude. They were like, no, it's okay, thank you. They weren't like, get out of here, you don't know what the heck you're doing. We do, though. The main six weren't being outrightly rude to them. Maybe they felt a little okay about it. Just could have been handled better.
Well, these are rich and snooty ponies.
I just want to
What are you saying, Dev?
I want to make a citation, too, because someone in the chat brought up Princess Spike. Remember that episode, Fancy Pants was trying to get, like, free passes, all that, but when Spike says, no, Princess Twilight wouldn't allow you. He just shrugged and said, "Oh well, worth a try."
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say, I actually think one way they could have handled Fancy Pants, they could keep the actions that he was doing, where he was like critiquing their stuff and like double checking on all of them, but have it be more like snarky and like more, what do you call it? Like
Coy.
Yeah, like for example, when she says "thank you, but we've got it under control," maybe have him do like a half smile, like, "Oh really? Did you take care of this and this and this and this?" And they say, yeah, we took care of that." And then maybe he just like slowly walks away, and like all of his remarks are not rude per se. They're more just like it's like, "I told you we could do it better."
Hey guys, our time is up for dislikes. Did you want to move on to questions? Or
Yeah.
talk about this a little?
Unless somebody's got something in particular to say to somebody else in what we've already been talking about here,
Well, someone brought it up. I just want to say the whole main 6 setup I felt like was blah.
Yeah, that was something I don't like. And I'll just take 10 seconds to say I am not cool with this whole main 6 taking over Equestria thing. I don't think it's a good idea from a lore standpoint or from a storytelling standpoint. So with that said, we can argue with you.
I need 5 seconds to just say it.
Yeah, go ahead, I guess.
Why is Twilight thinking she can do all that and refusing help when she's done things like set up like the Princess Spike setting up? She knows that Celestia and Luna don't do everything. Why is she suddenly thinking she can do everything? They're friends. It's not like this is an assignment from Celestia. She volunteered.
Exactly, and I will get into that in a second. So what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen of the chat, is ask whatever kind of questions you want. You can ask anybody on the panel anything you want, and we're going to address. Heather is going to read off your questions. It can be about what we've talked about so far, or points that we have made. And while we're waiting on those questions, I'm gonna say that there was no reason for Twilight and the gang to not know about the delegation aspect of things. There's no reason for them to be in this situation in the first place. Just the whole idea of them taking over for Equestria and running all these duties is just a bad idea. I would have liked it a lot better if the episode could have just been that they volunteered to take over for Celestia and Luna because they recognized that they needed a vacation. So
yeah, I mean, one thing I will say that I do agree with you guys, I don't think that the main 6 taking over Equestria is the worst thing in the world, but as far as storytelling standpoints go, the most they've done so far is consider the responsibilities in the season premiere and do one Equestria-based task in this episode. They haven't done anything else really in the whole season. The season's half over now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if the whole big zinger of the the season premiere was going to be the fact that they're taking over Equestria, don't you think they'd do more things Equestria related, kind of like how the cutie map was the big zinger in like season 6 and they did so much with it, they did so many adventures, and this one they've done 2 things total.
I have to kind of agree. I think this is the problem with MLP and their arcs. Like they tend to do like these big setups, but they kind of really space out those story episodes. Like so far, we've had the premiere. You can argue Uprooted, and then what was it, Frenemies, and now this episode in terms of the advancing the story arc.
Exactly, and I've never had a problem with this type of thing that Friendship is Magic has done in the past, but now they're taking it to a level where it is concerning me on both a meta aspect and a storytelling aspect and a lore aspect. Is they always did this thing where the overarching plot was kind of sprinkled throughout the seasons because we never really knew if we would get another season or not. From season 3, if I remember correctly, season 3 at one point was going to be the end of Friendship is Magic, and then we got season 4, and then we got season 5, and then we got season 6 and 7 and 8, and so when you're dealing with something like taking over Equestria, that type of thing, if you're going to tell that type of story, it needs a lot more establishment. It needs a lot more foundation in the lore. There's loose ends that need to get tied up and established, and it needs to be played a lot further out. So they should have just this is a direction that I did not like the show going in. So with that being said, I'm gonna take over for just a second here. Heather, do we have any questions yet?
We have a few eensy-beensy questions that I'm sure you guys can expand upon, and I'm ready to start the 30-minute timer whenever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Aki.
Ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Ready.
Okay. I have a couple questions here. In regards to what we were talking about earlier with the confrontation between Celestia and Luna saying, hey, maybe you would prefer I never came back, and Celestia's response to that, Mike's Geek World asks, could that be seen as Celestia deflecting?
Let's try to define the deflecting here. So we'll start with DJ for this one. DJ, what do you think about that question?
Could you say it again? Just kind of got blurred there a little bit.
Heather, can you read the question again for me, please?
Could that be seen as Celestia deflecting?
I mean, it's possible, but I don't quite think that was it. I
How
think
so?
it was just more that might have been what Celestia instantly jumped to, considering that was a little bit of what went into Nightmare Moon was the difference in responsibilities, since Nightmare Moon became Luna became Nightmare Moon because she didn't have the same respect as the citizens, and it's possible Celestia may have seen that through the differences in their responsibilities.
So let me ask you this then: if we were to, what would you consider to have been deflection? Like if Celestia had done this differently, you would have seen that and said, hey, that is emotionally deflecting the question or the critique rather than addressing it properly like what you think she did.
Not quite sure. Having a blank at the moment.
All right, that's understandable. Dev, what do you think about that? Dev, are you still with me? Okay, there you are.
Trying to think of what to say because, I brought it up before, but I just feel like I can't really see it as deflection just because the way they set up and how quick it was to handle. Like there was no hesitation on her part or anything like that. Like that's the thing about animation. Like if you don't put it in, then we have to assume what's there is there.
All right.
Yeah.
Finn, what do you think about that?
Well, you're kind of expanding on what Deverer said. It's like the best part, the thing with animation, like he said, it's mostly show don't tell. So
excuse me, did you just call me Deverer?
Deverer?
You could just call me Dev, but dang it, what is everyone call me Deverer at one point?
Dowie.
All right, don't worry about it too much. What were you saying, Finn?
Anyway, expanding on what he said that when they don't show something in an episode, you kind of have to imply it, which is good for fan theories, but I'm still of the belief that animation is best when it's show don't tell, and it's like if they don't exactly show it, it's kind of hard to imply if it's actually there or not. So
yeah, I agree exactly because you remember what was it? So season 2 episode, I think it involved Sweetie and Rarity. I forget.
Sisterhood Social.
Sisterhood Social.
I just remember they got into an argument. Sweetie went through all these phases that just conveyed all the emotions she was feeling right in that moment, thanks to the animation.
Yeah, it's like she didn't need to say a word. It's just like emotion, 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 and you felt it.
And you go to a show like Avatar, and I know Avatar is leagues ahead of MLP.
Oh, how dare you!
Any inflection of the character's voice, the way they may look off at one point, how they react to a certain line.
Yeah, so what I would have to answer that question myself, what I think is I don't think it was deflection. For it to have been deflection, I think Celestia would have needed to do something along the lines of, how dare you bring something like that into this, or don't, and then without actually addressing it. I believe the term that has been popular lately with that kind of response is gaslighting. So it was most certainly not that, but there was a reflex there. There was a reflex there to it wasn't, because I've always been of the theory that people don't get mad and say hurtful things. They get mad and say exactly what they have always wanted to say because they've lost their inhibition through that anger. They don't care if they hurt you anymore. So that is not so much what Celestia did in her reaction was not so much deflection as it was more so just the reaction of she's had this on her mind for a long time, and now the situation has presented itself where she can express it, and she doesn't necessarily care about the damage that she does in return because, you know, she's just been insulted herself a couple of times. So that's the difference of what I think happened and what I think the deflection would be. Does anybody have anything to say to that, or do we move on to the next question?
I just feel like it wasn't deflecting, especially because Luda specifically says, I bet you wish you were alone so you could rule the day and night again, and then Celestia goes to the pressure of responsibility. So yeah, I don't think it was really deflection. That was on her. That was the first thing she jumped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so what's the next question then?
Film Brony 22X asked, while Celestia and Luna are on vacation, what was Fancy Pants' issue with Twilight? I think we went into that a little bit, but if you guys wanted to expand a little bit more.
So yeah, it seemed like Fancy Pants didn't like that Twilight assumed she knew what she was doing, and you know, took control over a situation that he knew she was gonna mess up without delegating properly. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I actually, I think actually a good example of how to handle the situation the best way. If anybody remembers Fluttershy leans in.
Yeah. So but I'm not sure what you're driving at here, Finn. Tell me your point.
Well, Fluttershy already had an idea that the 3 ponies that they were hired, you know, wouldn't be able to do the job exactly the way she wanted, but she still let them try. You know, she still let them try their input and try their hand at those kinds of things. She had a plan of what she wanted, but she at least let them do their thing. It was the wrong thing. It wasn't the thing she wanted, and then she turned them away after she knew that it was wrong. But Twilight right away just says, "Nope, we got this. See ya. Get out of here."
And I think to some extent, Fancy Pants might have been doing something similar because he was around that whole time.
Yeah.
Like, it goes back to what we were saying. I think we all had some issue with the setup of that, and like we already proposed some ideas of like how it could have been handled better. Like Fancy, instead of getting angry and suddenly rude, he could have just been snarky about it and just saying, "Oh, you think you can handle it now? Well, let's see. Put your money where your mouth is. And if you need me, I'll be right here."
Yeah, that's certainly something. But it
also
seems...
at the end there, when Twilight says the now famous line, "So this is how you run Equestria," you can see Fancy Pants nodding to what she says, kind of like almost looking proud. So I think after this, there might be some respect growing.
Now you see, children, this is why we need democracy.
This is why we have to learn.
Yep, that too. But democracy is better, gosh darn it. All right, next question.
We have one from Crovax13. Why was Grogar's secret lair on Celestia's map? You guys want to do a little theorizing on that regard? I believe he's referring to the moment where Rainbow Dash had a map that was trying to guide the Cutie Mark Crusaders through the forest.
She's in on the conspiracy.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to miss it.
Part of
me doesn't necessarily mean that they know he's there.
Yeah, part of me thinks maybe that's a famous landmark in MLP in Equestria, and then Grogar just kind of used it as his hideout because no one's ever been there besides the Mean 3 yet. So.
And I don't think anybody knows Grogar is back either.
No, they don't know the others are back either.
Yeah.
All they know is Sombra, and he didn't reveal nothing, which is a first.
Yes,
it's gonna be like season 4 again, where it takes up 2 seasons to realize that there's someone missing from their jail.
Oh, by the way, I have 4 other people that are going to join me if you try to defeat me. Oops.
Then again, now their jail cell is suddenly behind a locked door, so they won't be able to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't really have anyone else watching the place, so.
To invoke Occam's razor, it could have just been either just an animation landmark, or it could just be part of the geography, like it was stated. Because, like, I mean, we've seen the map before. There are some locations like the temple and all that. but like, we don't. That doesn't mean they know about what's going on in there. So
I mean, maybe it's a historical landmark from that time.
exactly, yeah. So maybe it's just simply a landmark that's there. Boom, that's it.
Yeah. All right, Heather, what do you think?
I think they probably just reused an asset and thought anyone who saw it would have been like, look, there's that thing, instead of like overanalyzing it like we typically tend to do because we don't know how we work still.
Yep.
And it's actually kind of ironic. They're in this gigantic stone mountain, and nobody noticed that they're there. All of Equestria is literally living under a rock.
Ah.
I mean, they did give the explanation that somehow they don't know about dragons because they're too scary. So I guess ponies are scaredy cats. They don't want to go anything that looks like death. So even though
yeah, let's take a picture next to it, but let's not go in it.
It's the Skulosaurus.
Alrighty
It's like
then.
that evil layer in Mount Rushmore or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in Team America.
All right. Do we?
Next question.
Yep. Next question.
We got one from Toad 256. Do you think Flim and Flam lost their casino because in the song it showed them with an arrow sign and briefcase?
I don't know. I think that's either just a background gag or a background gag that's going to show up in a later episode.
Or
Maybe they ran out of money
Maybe they bought
on
a
the
new
way back.
location and they're going there.
I'm just gonna go simple again. Either background gag or yeah, they just did lose it.
Equestria is finally figuring out that everything they do is a scam.
If anything, I'm
put this
kind of
in
surprised their
universe.
casino lasted all the way till Friendship University.
Well, it even lasted longer than that. Best gift ever.
Yeah.
And that's my theory is, since they had to have all those dolls returned from Best Gift Ever, they had no money to make it back to Las Pegasus, so now they're hitchhiking.
Sounds about right. Sounds legit. What else do we have?
As in theory or question?
Questions.
Alrighty. 1 second. Casey. We have two that are related to each other. Iris Prince asked, do you think they should have added karate to their list of activities because Celestia being an adrenaline junkie? And Mike's Geek World said, along the lines of Iris's question, were there any other activities you guys would have liked seeing the princesses do?
Well, let me take this one here. I don't think that the princesses would have done karate, because like if I analyze it like a sport, they're in a completely different weight class and they have a horrible reach advantage on everybody, so there's no division that they could get in with an average pony unless they had a division staffed entirely by people of the Troubleshoes build that are roughly the same size as Celestia, but even then that's a completely different weight class. And then if you include magic, that's just a horribly unfair advantage. So as a sport, karate would be a horrible idea. What was the second part of that question?
Is there any other activities you would have added to their list?
Any other activities? So did they did the zip lining. They did the mountain climbing. They did they did sailing. I'm pretty sure they did skydiving.
Yes, they did. Celestia did it by herself.
Yeah.
Spelunking.
They rafted over or barreled over a waterfall. They went on roller coasters. Gosh darn, I'm not sure what else they could have done.
You know, I didn't see them do a whole lot of eating. A lot of food to eat in Equestria. Let's get that cake back in here.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't really care, but I guess if they really wanted it to, because it's the last season, I've kind of want now to have a gag where they're eating food and Celestia's like, and Luna's like pushing more and more cake over to Celestia. Just like a little gag to like nod to the fandom, you know? Because that's a popular headcanon that Celestia is like, loves nothing but cake.
That was one thing that I was gonna say, which I'm sure you'll agree once you hear it. So we got Luna and Celestia were able to witness the wonders of the post office. I wanted to see them witness the wonders of the grocery store.
Love it.
So that could go any number of ways. Which grocery store are we talking about here? Are we talking about Whole Foods, Walgreens, Walmart, Aldi's, Wegmans, Publix?
Yeah, and think about this. It's like
Winn-Dixie?
She got excited putting a stamp on a letter, the letter going to a pony, and then the pony giving them the letter. Imagine her mind just exploding out of her skull when she realizes you have to go down an aisle, take something off the shelf, put it on the counter, give money to the pony who owns it, and then put it in a bag, and then you can take it home.
I know, right? And it's readily available, and you don't have to spend weeks gambling on whether or not you can successfully grow it yourself.
Exactly.
I could only imagine. I don't know. What do you guys think? Any other activities that the princesses could have done?
Well, there is one I think I would have liked to see, even though I probably would have overwritten one of them.
Yeah?
It would have been a fun cameo if they went to a Kieran play.
Oh, they did travel to a lot of different places, so I guess they were just the one that might have got overlooked. They didn't go to Mount Eris either.
Well, that one might have not worked because, I mean, do they even... Because last I checked, nobody even really knew where the Kierans were except for the map itself, and then they were things of legend, if I remember correctly.
I know, it's just something that would have been cute to see as a cameo, since we did see that whole bit of the what's-her-name song in the last season.
Yep.
The Phantom of the Opera.
I mean,
everyone knows Luna would be a fan of that.
I can't really think of any activities aside from the cake thing or just in the nod. It's not like one of those things, situations where like Equestria Games where like they built up these events, but it was something else. But that's a whole other debate entirely. So I don't really have anything to say about that.
Yeah, but that's exactly right, DJ. Princess Luna is a Phantom of the Opera.
Boo!
Acknowledge my pun and laugh. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I found it funny that
pinnacle of comedy.
Joyce plays, but she doesn't enjoy the opera.
It's just it's a completely different thing there, you know. Maybe Celestia is more like the type that enjoys like Avenue Q rather than Phantom of the Opera or Les Miserables.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Okay, can I take over for a second because Cruz has been bringing this up before, and like I wanted to bring it up too eventually.
Yeah.
Like it goes back to the whole setup about like the main six taking over. Like Lawrence Fowles' original vision was about Twilight succeeding Celestia, so like there's that avenue we can talk about. And like I understand Lauren's original vision, but the thing is I just think the way the show has developed since then, it's kind of not really lining up to the way I think it would be able to fit in the show now. I mean, I don't like the current setup either, and we'll have to see what they do with it.
Interesting. Yeah, well, maybe if she had stayed on, it would have been different, or it would have kept a more balance between slice of life. I just think it's a like taking over for Equestria, taking over ruling Equestria is just a step too far for the format that we're going in. I think it would have needed to lean more towards overarching storyline rather than a balance between seasonal overarching storyline and slice of life like we've had all the way up until now. So maybe you're right, but I think it would have needed to have been done perfectly, like very differently. And whether or not it would have gone that way should Miss Foss had stayed on, I have no way of knowing.
I kind of want to just save all the opinions on it until after the season is over, because I want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, like I said, like,
moving any forward with it.
I'm kind of against it now, but we gotta see what they do with it.
Yep.
Give him the chance.
As we do, as bronies are almost obligated to do, because that's literally how we all ended up here. No, I don't want to watch My Little Pony Mind Poison. What is wrong with you? Oh, snap! It's actually good. All right.
Also, before we move on to the next question, I found out something interesting, is that the swan ceremony is actually real.
Oh my god. Tell me more.
It's an annual ceremony in England where mute swans in the River Thames are rounded up, caught, ringed, and then released.
Okay, so it's a British tradition, so we immediately disregard it.
Well, I mean, they are a monarchy.
We're American.
This show's a monarchy.
It's true. But still, we're American
Bring
here.
out the next question. My brain needs to hit something.
Alrighty. Curtis Bassett asked, "Who liked the end where Twilight lost control of the sun and moon?"
I thought it was
hilarious.
Yeah, that was great. Who didn't?
As
Now,
Silver
did
Bolt
anybody
said,
here?
She's ruined the tides again.
Did anybody here not see that coming though?
I 100% saw it coming.
I saw it coming, but after the whole not liking the main 6 segment is like, I was just going, ugh.
And that's why they shouldn't be taking over. Celestia and Luna are literally the only ones that can handle that duty.
Although, to be fair, you have to realize they left when the sun was up, and when they got there, the moon was up. So that means Twilight was able to do it the first time. She wasn't able to do it again.
Plus, I gotta bring this up too. They showed that them actually doing isn't that hard, so they couldn't just be like, oh wait, hang on a second, let me just lower the sun a little bit.
It's a lore problem. You know, Celestia and Luna were the only ones that could do it. Everybody else had drained their magic.
Yeah. I mean, they did have the whole, like, before the sisters, the unicorns did it, but they never really brought that up. Plus,
Yeah,
again, like,
exactly.
They've shown it. They've shown it in other episodes, like some shots in like what was it, Camelot Wedding Part 1, where it just Luna just is sitting still, lowering the moon, and then like Celestia does the whole flying up fancy thing in the pilot. So like it doesn't really seem like they really need the medallion because like they could just take 2 minutes out of their vacation and just do it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess there's that. Heather, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, I think I was telling you last night, raising the sun and moon doesn't I don't think it comes hand in hand with ruling Equestria. Maybe when they were tired, they would still do the duty of raising the sun and moon. Maybe that would just be their only job. But we have seen there's various ways for them to give that power to Twilight. Maybe they really do just want to become regular ponies and give all the power to Twilight, or maybe to Cadence too, if they want to split that up, make sure it's not all one person, and let the celestial bodies move along with them. But we could go back and forth about this.
And I gotta jump on that really quick. Maybe that could have been a way for False Vision to be realized if they focused more on the story arc kind of thing. But they kind of are doing 50-50, so.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we do.
All right. How are we on time?
We have 8 minutes and 12 seconds.
All right. Let's get a couple more in then.
How would Sunburst know how to make the device to restart the amulet?
That guy knows everything about magic. Even if he's not terribly talented, he knows everything. He's got that same problem I got.
He is a human, I shouldn't say pony almanac, basically, for magic.
Well, I mean, it could just be that the thing's an ancient artifact.
Maybe he found it while he was antiquing.
I mean, isn't it the golden rule of all technology is if it's not working, just restart it?
I'm surprised Twilight went ahead and started twisting that watch dial without listening to the whole instructions, but whatever.
She was panicking.
Yeah, I that much I can understand.
Yeah, that was like one thing I thought it was funny. Like she was in panic mode by that point. That's typical Twilight.
Yeah, especially when she's under pressure.
Twilight.
Because Celestia does say they say they put a small part of their power in this amulet, so that could mean it's just an ancient artifact. And with Sunburst knowing his history.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, what else we got?
Toad 256 asked, "How do you feel about Celestia being afraid of chicken?"
That
it
is
was a worse joke. It was a worse joke than Twilight being afraid of quesadillas.
You stole my thunder, Dev. Okay, never laugh again.
Well,
Yeah.
chickens are scary if you've played certain video games.
Immediately when I saw that she was afraid of chickens, I immediately thought, did she have like a traumatic incident with the cockatrice, and now just seeing like the face of something similar really sets her off, or what? That's just
She
like
could have been She could have been attacked by chickens at a young age.
child trauma.
Chickens are mean.
They are. So are geese. I freaking hate geese.
Why does everybody have a problem with like swans, geese, and chickens? What is it
I
about
remember-
birds that you guys just can't handle?
I like
They
the
stole my sandwich.
Actually, Heather, I'm reading the transcript. Celestia does say that Luna handled the chicken, so it wasn't a cockatrice. She is just scared of chicken.
Well, no, like in general, like after it would have been with the cockatrice, that traumatic incident, she'd be afraid of chickens, and Luna's like, okay, I'll just scare the chickens away from you. I don't see how that would prove my theory.
One little thing I was going to say, coming from having a brother who's into veterinary medicine, he himself has stated all animals are babies except chickens.
Chickens.
What are chickens?
I just want to.
Chickens are chickens.
I mean, I just want to say though, these are Celestia and Luna, the 1,000+ year old alicorns. So like,
They're still ponies.
Well, they can still be afraid of chickens.
I guess he's got a point. I guess he's got a point there. I still have crippling arachnophobia, but you know, I've done all kinds of crazy things that, you know, and I've had people say to me like, oh, you know, you act like such a tough guy, Brawny, but you're afraid of spiders. Shut up! Get out of here! I don't remember asking you a gosh darn thing. Don't you even
irrational fear?
Yeah, don't you even dare start talking about it. Freaking.
I mean, I have the same thing. Like when I hear a bee buzzing in the room, I cower in fear, start going to a fetal position on the floor. But I'm not a 1,000-year-old demigod.
Sounds like you just need to be a little tougher. What's the next question?
Oh wait, you were actually trying to make a pun there?
What's up, Heather?
We're low on questions, but there was something I noted earlier that wasn't exactly a question, but from Mike's Geek World. I don't remember offhand who, but someone brought up how both sisters were supposed to be at fault, but Celestia came off as worse to me. What is your guys' take on that?
Ooh, that's an interesting thing.
I would definitely say Celestia is the worst because she deliberately pulled.
What was the question again?
It's they asked, I don't remember offhand who, but someone brought up how both sisters were supposed to be at fault, but Celestia came off as worse. Yeah.
Yeah, Celestia was the one that pulled him out of Luna's activity. So yeah.
I thought it was even between the two of them. Because they both agreed to switch back and forth. But then as the day or days, however long it was, wore on, they started resenting each other whenever it wasn't their turn to pick the activity. So and then it just kind of boiled over from there. And from what I was observing, they both started to try to take over control and do the whole, and go through their whole list all at once. So that's
we saw it in the song.
Yeah, as far as I could tell, they were both doing the same thing to each other. So I'm not seeing that. What do you guys think?
I would say I see that because they don't resent the fact that Celestia did pull Luna away from her activities early, and Luna was still participating in Luna's activity, albeit dragging her feet or being dragged sometimes, but she wasn't trying to drag Celestia away from the things that she wanted to do.
Well, she's the little sister. You don't usually expect the little sister to be able to pull the big sister away from what they want to do.
So she might have wanted to, but the fact is she didn't try and she didn't, but Celestia would.
I think that's just part of the sibling dynamic that a lot of people go through.
But still, then it is, Celestia did a little bit worse. Maybe I just want a little bit of that. Maybe I'm partial to Luna, but it seemed that way to me.
Okay.
Alrighty then.
Yes, it was very rude of Celestia to interrupt that one, but to err on Celestia's side, opera is very hard to listen to for a lot of people. So
it's called earbud.
You can only put up with so much.
Well, that's because you're uneducated and uncultured. I do not recall.
I'm sorry, Brawny, but your voice was not operational there.
Good job, Dev. I would high five you if you were not across the country.
Could we? We have hood. Oops.
Yep. So I was just gonna say I do not recall Celestia doing anything that Luna didn't also do. But what I did recall is seeing them both kind of resenting each other for their chosen activities after they kind of signed up for them. Like how are you going to not know that you're going to be doing something that you don't necessarily want to do and kind of mentally prepare for that? Or maybe they should have taken it slower and taken a longer vacation, done one thing for each other each day so that they have a chance to mentally recover from dragging each other around something they don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah, it seemed like at the end they were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but I think that was too little too late. They should have done that from the beginning, and then maybe they wouldn't have gotten so sick.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think the problem was by the time they started going back and forth, what do you call it? Celestia was already so used to doing extreme things that she was getting bored easily, and Luna was so fed up with doing extreme things that she was getting, impatient earlier. So it kind of reached the point where, you can't win no matter which one you do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's...
Luna did nothing wrong, 2019.
All right.
And you have 16 seconds.
Well, I'd say let's wrap it up then. I'll give you all 5 seconds to give some closing thoughts here. I'll start with myself. Good episode. I could nitpick the heck out of it. And normally when I can nitpick the heck out of something, it means I didn't think it was good, but I didn't see any real major problems with it, just aside from the B plot. Heather.
I enjoyed this episode. It was a nice romp. Some of Twilight's antics and with fancy pants were kind of tiresome, not the funnest. Please take care of your turtles. Luna did nothing wrong 2019. Let us continue.
DJ.
I love this episode. I'm loving this final season. I'm really hoping we get a very good closing.
All right, Dev.
B plot was unnecessary. A plot was decent episode, but not a favorite of mine.
All right, and Finn.
Episode was great. Sisters were cute. B plot was a little lacking, but the sister dynamic was great. Song was fantastic. And Luna, next time you go to a beach, please wear sunblock.
Well, that's a thing. That's a thing. Fun fact here.
People, it's summer.
Fun fact here. Sunblock doesn't work on me. I've tried the strongest sunblock you can possibly get. That without it being a prescription. I have, done everything right, reapplied it every 15 minutes, been thorough, still got nasty sunburns. I don't understand it. But
dang it, Brawny, stop being immune to stuff that helps you.
I know, right? If it's not this, it's medications. I'm up a creek anytime something happens to me.
Check it out, guys. I got my latest sunblock. It's SPF of who cares. I'm going to get burned anyway.
Yeah, I know, right?
Which is why I always say wear a hat before you go outside. That is the only thing I can think of.
I was just at Elior's wedding this last weekend here, and we were out in the sun for, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, and I got a little toasty on top of my head, and my face got a little bit of color to it. It was I was feeling that by the end of the day. Anyway, thank you all so much for coming out. And watching us. Thank you, Finn, so much for joining us. Thank you, Dev and DJ, for joining us. Thank you, Heather, for moderating for me. I love you so much. If you guys want to be on one of these streams, I would love to have you on. You just need to be a part of my Patreon Discord server for as little as $1 a month. It all goes a very long way if you want to choose to support the channel. Be sure to thank all these guys and my supporters. Their links will be in the descriptions. Shout outs to my $10 plus Patreon supporters, these being Autoknight, Sodden Girder, Senko, Jennan Kellogg, Kyle Christensen, DJSkywalker right there in the chat, Mike's Geek World, who is also in the chat with us in the Equestria City Heroverse series. I hope you all enjoyed this show. We're going to be doing this again next Wednesday. So not this upcoming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that. Next week, we're going to be doing another installment of Friday Night Fights, where one of my Patreon supporters will pick a game for us to play. So be sure to tune into that. Be sure to tune into Heather Blossom's channel on Saturdays at... help me out here, Heather. You start your stream at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Pacific time. So that would be 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, wherever you may be. So be sure to check in on that if you want to. I'm usually hanging out in the chat or helping her moderate as well. So yeah, it was great seeing you all. Thank you all so much for your questions. If you have any topic discussions, be sure to send them to me at bronydebates@gmail.com or on Tumblr at brawnybuck at Tumblr. Again, thank you all for coming out. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
안녕히 가세요.
Yep.
Getting a sandwich.
Have a great night, everyone.